Have you ever imagined what you'd do if you saw a grown woman slap your disabled child across the face? What if that same woman had no idea that you had the power to put her behind bars with a single phone call? I'm still trembling as I write this. Yesterday afternoon, my 12-year-old daughter, Lila, was physically assaulted twice by our HOA president right outside our own home. This wasn't an isolated tantrum. No, this was cruelty layered in entitlement, peppered with slurs, and reinforced by years of unchecked authority. My name is Serena Morales. I've been a single mother to Lila since losing my husband in a car crash 4 years ago. My daughter has cerebral palsy and uses a specialized electric wheelchair, sleek cobalt blue, and practically an extension of her personality. She's bright, artistic, and has a warmth that makes you feel like the sun is shining even on a cloudy day. 3 months ago, we moved into Willow Glen Estates, a pristine neighborhood just outside Boston. It had top-notch schools, inclusive programs, and a quiet charm I thought would help us both heal and grow. The house stretched my finances to the edge, but it had potential, and I believed Lila deserved that fresh start. What I hadn't expected was the walking nightmare that is Clarice Beecham, our HOA president. Clarice is the poster child for HOA horror stories. Think middle-aged, designer everything, a permanent sneer, and a tone of voice like she's always smelling something foul. Her crusade against my daughter began the day our accessibility ramp was installed. I had all the permits, full HOA approval, and even hired an architect to ensure the ramp matched our home's colonial aesthetics. Still, Clarice showed up, clipboard in hand, demanding an explanation. "This ramp wasn't cleared by the Architectural Review Committee," she barked. I handed over the signed paperwork from the vice president. She sniffed, muttering, "Gerald never consults me." When I mentioned ADA compliance, she dismissed it like a dirty word. That was the first red flag. She later suggested we use the back entrance to hide the ramp from view. Then came a formal notice claiming Lila's wheelchair color violated the neighborhood's visual uniformity standards. I laughed bitterly. Regulating wheelchair colors? Seriously? I tried everything to keep the peace. I attended meetings, brought tamales to neighborhood events, which Clarice always avoided, and offered to help make community spaces more inclusive. But the passive-aggressive notes continued. The icy stares. The whispers. And I kept my cool for my daughter's sake. Until yesterday. It was a warm Sunday afternoon. Lila asked if she could decorate the driveway with sidewalk chalk. She adored creating vibrant butterflies and swirling galaxies. I helped her get situated and went inside to prepare her favorite chicken enchiladas. Every few minutes I checked on her from the kitchen window. Then I heard shouting. Clarice stood over my daughter, spewing insults. Lila hunched down, her hands trembling, trying to shrink into her chair. I rushed outside. Just as I reached the porch, I heard the slap. Lila cried out. I froze. Lila pressed her hand to her red cheek, eyes wide with pain. Clarice was still yelling, accusing her of vandalism. I moved to intervene, but before I could, Clarice struck again. The sound cracked through the air. Neighbors began to gather. Phones came out. Clarice screamed, "You people think rules don't apply to you. This isn't some barrio art fair." My hands curled into fists, but I knew losing control wouldn't help Lila. My voice, honed from years in federal court, came out cool and firm. "Step away from my daughter. Now." Clarice wheeled around, stunned, then sneered. "She's defacing community property. That butterfly? Graffiti." I looked down. Lila's butterfly glowed in lavender and teal, a masterpiece on our private driveway. "Marin, you just committed assault on a disabled child. I suggest you leave before I call the cops." She laughed. "Call them. I am the HOA. Wrong move." I went inside, grabbed my phone, and came back recording. Clarice ranted about wheelchair colors, property values, graffiti, and eviction. But I said nothing. I just filmed. Then our neighbor, Justice Tom Calhoun, retired district judge, stepped in beside Lila. "Clarice, you laid hands on a disabled minor. That's assault and battery aggravated due to her condition. That's a felony." Clarice paled. "Do you know who I am? I run this HOA. My husband golfs with the mayor." I saw my moment. "And do you know who I am?" "Serena Morales, Assistant U.S. Attorney, Civil Rights Division, Department of Justice. You just committed a federal hate crime on video." Want to try adding obstruction and witness intimidation to that? Clarice's face drained of all color. You're bluffing. I dialed 911, relayed the incident, and gave our address. Officers were dispatched immediately. Meanwhile, Lila explained her butterfly to a curious group of kids who'd wandered over. One boy asked if she'd teach him how to blend colors. My daughter, brave and bright, still shining. Clarice stood alone, sputtering about HOA rules. But neighbors came forward. Statements were offered. One woman revealed how Clarice tried to fine her for Lunar New Year decorations. A cardiologist couple recounted how Clarice tried to block their home purchase due to spicy cooking odors. The silence around Clarice broke like a dam. Detective Alton Brooks arrived, an old colleague from a synagogue hate crime case. He handled the situation with professionalism and compassion, kneeling to Lila's level, recording her injuries, taking witness statements, and reviewing the videos. Ma'am, he said to Clarice, you're under arrest for assault and battery on a disabled minor. Possibly a hate crime. Clarice shrieked, it was just a slap. With multiple witnesses. And video. That's more than enough, he replied calmly. Clarice was cuffed and taken away, stunned, humiliated. The neighbors who once avoided me now rallied behind us. Meals arrived. Flowers. Sidewalks were suddenly blooming with chalk art, dozens of butterflies like Lila's. The new HOA board removed Clarice within 3 days. They invited me to speak at the next meeting. Clarice took a plea deal: probation, community service with disabled youth, diversity training, and a restraining order. We won a civil suit, using the settlement to launch a scholarship for disabled kids pursuing the arts. Willow Glen became a different place. An inclusive one. And every evening, Lila still draws outside, surrounded by friends, watched over by neighbors who learned the power of standing together. She says the sidewalk is her gallery, and butterflies are her voice. And I couldn't be prouder. Because in a world that tried to silence her, my daughter turned pain into purpose and gave an entire community wings. Have you ever imagined what you'd do if you saw a grown woman slap your disabled child across the face? What if that same woman had no idea that you had the power to put her behind bars with a single phone call? I'm still trembling as I write this. Yesterday afternoon, my 12-year-old daughter, Lila, was physically assaulted twice by our HOA president right outside our own home. This wasn't an isolated tantrum. No, this was cruelty layered in entitlement, peppered with slurs, and reinforced by years of unchecked authority. My name is Serena Morales. I've been a single mother to Lila since losing my husband in a car crash 4 years ago. My daughter has cerebral palsy and uses a specialized electric wheelchair, sleek cobalt blue, and practically an extension of her personality. She's bright, artistic, and has a warmth that makes you feel like the sun is shining even on a cloudy day. 3 months ago, we moved into Willow Glen Estates, a pristine neighborhood just outside Boston. It had top-notch schools.